Hello, race fans. It is, what day is it? It's Wednesday, October 14th, the day after the most recent Winona Senior High School cross-country meet. Unfortunately, I was not able to be at that meet, so I'm going to have to recreate the action for you using these figurines. So the race was in Austin. Austin is the home to Hormel, also the home to the Spam Museum, in case ever you're out this way and you want to go see the Spam Museum. I hear it's pretty cool. There were 7 teams at this meet, and because it was a smaller meet, the format is all of the boys, varsity, JV, C team, doesn't matter. They all run a 5K and they all start at the same time. Same thing with the girls. So you had one mass start for each race, boys and girls race. So the girls went first, and Colleen PR'd last week. She ran a 23:37, and really wanted to PR again this week as well at the Austin race. But more importantly, she knew she wanted to keep up with certain girls who've been finishing in front of her the whole time. Specifically Kaya Hamilton. Kaya is a really good runner. She's young. She's a freshman, or she's 8th grade. Doesn't matter. Anyway, she's been finishing in front of Colleen by a good 30 or 40 seconds. So Colleen really wanted to finish in front of Kaya. So this is Kaya. The Thunderbird, Colleen. So let me move the other participants back. So the race starts. And one thing that they get is they get mile splits, 2 mile splits, and then of course the end of the race, which is the 3.1 mile line. So start of the race, off they go. End of the first mile. Her first mile split was 17:17. Colleen Thunderbird Halleck 17:34. 7:17 and 7:34. So Colleen was a good 17 seconds back. I mean, that's like, that's a pretty long way, right? So after mile two, Colleen is now dead even with Kaya, and they both run at, they're both at 14:56. Now what that meant for Colleen was that not only did she cut 17 seconds off Kaya's lead, but Colleen also had a 12-second negative split for her second mile. That's fantastic. I mean, very few of the runners have neg splits after the second mile. So Colleen had a 12-second negative split, which is really great. She clearly picked up her pace. So, end of the race, and Colleen finishes 4 seconds in front of Kaya, which was one of her goals. So she ends up at 23:43. While that wasn't a PR, like I said, her previous week's PR was 23:37. Still pretty exciting, because she did beat somebody who she wanted to beat. And of course, not every race, you can't compare every race to every other race, because the weather conditions are different, the course is laid out different. Yeah, they're all 5K, but you've got wind, you've got uphill, downhill, all those different things. So not many people did PR at the Austin race. So that was really cool. So Colleen got a 23:43, and she was very happy about that. Very happy. So, and as for the girls varsity team, what they do is they take the top 5 finishers for your team, and that's what they figure the place standing on. And Winona varsity girls took first place at this meet. So it was pretty cool. I mean, it was a smaller meet, so some of the big powerhouse teams weren't there, but that's fine. It's, they still took first out of 17, so they were pretty happy about that. Apparently, all the varsity runners got a donut as big as their head. Literally, that's what they call them. Donuts as big as your head. And that was the prize for taking first. That was pretty cool. Okay, so now for the boys race. So here's what I've got. Okay, Carter Fritz, all right? He's a penguin, okay? Yusuf the jalapeno, all right? So Carter Fritz, penguin. Yusuf is the jalapeno. Let's see. Carter Briggs, you get to be the cool skeleton. Okay. Colton Brand, you're the horse. Preston, the Thunderbird Halleck. Yeah, I know I'm using him, and I use him for Collie, but you know what? It's like their legacy. They have to be Thunderbirds at some point. Their current mascot for Winona is the Windhawk, so Thunderbird is way cooler. What's the word? Windhawk. No, it doesn't work. What's the word? Thunderbird. So anyway, Thunderbirds. Okay. So let's get back to the start line. Okay, so you've got Carter Fritz, penguin. You've got, what did I say? Yusuf, he's the giant jalapeno. Carter Briggs, you're the skull. Colton Brand, you're the horse. Preston Halleck, what's the word? Thunderbird. Okay, boom, gun goes off. Off they go. So as usual, Preston falls behind because that's the way he runs. So after the first mile, we had Carter Fritz, 5:23. Yusuf, right behind him at 5:24. Carter Briggs and Colton Brand right behind them at 5:25, or right behind Yusuf at 5:25. And then Preston bringing up the rear. Yeah. Preston bringing up the rear at 5:26. So they were all pretty well bunched together. I think I'm going to move him over behind the jalapeno. I think he'd prefer that. So anyway, pretty well bunched together. Okay? Mile 2 now. Carter Fritz, Carter Briggs and Colton Brand all 10:54. Dead even at the end of the 2 miles. Yusuf, giant jalapeno, 10:55. Preston, 10:59. So Preston now was 5 seconds behind Carter Fritz and Carter Briggs and Colton, and 4 seconds behind Yusuf. Now one of Preston's goals this week was not only to run fast, to be fleet-footed, but to try to keep up with Yusuf, because Yusuf has been finishing in front of him every race by a good 10 or 15 seconds. And Preston believes that he can keep up with him, and we believe him too. So after mile 2, this is where they were. Now, I'm not talking about Noah and Cassidy and Kale. They finished, kind of 1, 2, 3 for the Winona team, and they were about 20 seconds ahead of everybody else. So, but this is for the Winona team. This represents the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 runners for the Winona team. So next week is sections, which means that's sort of the race. No, it's the Big 9 Championship, which is like the Black Hills League. Kind of think about it that way. It's that championship, that league championship. And then after that is the sections, which means all the teams from the greater area, including the real powerhouses, will be there. And that race decides who goes to state. So this race is important because it's going to decide who's on varsity next week. So anyway, so as I was saying, so now that was mile 2. Packed, Preston 5 seconds behind. So mile 3, as far as I can tell, and this is I'm reliving this. I'm trying to recreate this. Mile 3 sees Preston caught back up, and everyone is kind of like this. Yusuf has fallen a few seconds behind. But now you've got Carter, Colton, and Preston, and they are all like hardcore. That last 200 yards are going for it. So apparently, you have Carter and Colton, Carter Fritz and Colton pull out, and then Carter Briggs pulls up and in, and then Preston pulls up and in, and they finish. This is how they finish the race. Carter Fritz, 17:32. Preston, 17:33. And Carter Briggs, also 17:33, but slightly behind Preston. And then Colton, 17:34. And then Yusuf was back at 17:42. So this is how they finished. Literally, it was runners number 4, 5, Preston. So Carter Fritz 4, Preston 5, Carter Briggs 6, Colton Brand 7. So it was, I mean, one race I missed, and that was apparently the best race in terms of racing. It sounded like it was really exciting. Now, the thrust of all this is that, and Preston finished 14th for the race. Noah, who took first for the Winona team, finished 6th overall. So the thrust of all that fast running, and by the way, that was a PR for Preston, a PR for Carter Briggs, a PR for Colton, is that the Winona boys varsity team also took first place. So they got a donut as big as your head. That was pretty exciting. So anyway, that was pretty cool. It was a really great race. Their next race is next Thursday, back in Owatonna, which is where the last video I made, that race was. In fact, that's where the next 2 races are. So what I don't know is how the coaches are going to put the varsity schedule, the varsity runners together, because the first 5 are kind of no-brainers, but really once you get down to 6 and 7, it's a little sketchy, because here's why. Noah had some early season asthma. He had some hot weather asthma issues, and there were 2 or 3 races he did not race. But if you look at his average place on the team for the races he did race, he's clearly in front of everybody else. You got Cassidy and you've got Kale, fine. So Noah, Cassidy, and Kale, probably 1, 2, 3. Here's the thing. Yusuf finished 8th in the Austin race, but he had a bad race, and he has been finishing so far up. So I don't think they can take for the Big 9 championship. They can take just simply the top 7 from the Austin race, because that would leave Yusuf on JV, which I don't know. I mean, he's been running so fast, so frequently. One bad race didn't put him on JV. So when you look at the average placement, Yusuf is actually 5th. Preston is 6th, and Carter Briggs is 7th. But if you take just the last 4 races, then that changes things. Maybe Colton Brand would be farther up, because one of Carter Briggs' really fast races was earlier in the season. So I don't know what they're going to do. It'll be interesting to see. I think Preston, regardless, will be up on varsity. But you never know. So anyway, that's my race day report. Signing off from the Penguin, the Jalapeno, the Dios de la Muerta, Skull, the horse, what's the word? Thunderbird. So, go Windhawks.